Hello and welcome to InsuranceAsia News. I have with me Alexandra Wrobel, Head of Cyber, Commercial Insurance Asia, and Ruiwen Wan, Senior Cyber Risk Engineer at Zurich. Today we are going to talk about cyber resilience and risk quantification. Can you give us an overview of the cyber risk landscape and how it's evolving?
Sure. So the cyber risk landscape is complex and rapidly evolving, driven by our dependence on digital infrastructure, the advancement of technology, and how business operations change as a result from those. This is driven by three key themes, and the first being an expanding attack surface. So with IoT and the interconnectedness of devices, we're seeing even more avenues of attack. The second being third-party risk, which is increasing due to our move to cloud services, remote work, and complex supply chains. And then lastly, we are seeing more sophisticated attacks, and this especially is happening recently with the emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning. Ransomware is the leader in cyber attacks, and 2023 was an unprecedented year for the number of ransomware attacks. We are seeing the frequency and sophistication, like I've already mentioned with ransomware, but then I'd like to highlight three key trends specifically with respect to ransomware and this type of attack. The first being double extortion. So we're seeing threat actors not only encrypt data, but they also steal that data before encryption and then threaten to release that publicly unless a ransom is paid. The second is that we're seeing specific industries targeted. Year to date, we're seeing a rise in cyber attacks against healthcare providers and government bodies, and these entities have an urgent need to access the data, again, adding another level of pressure to pay the ransom. The last trend is ransomware as a service, and this is really lowering the barrier to entry for potential ransomware attackers. Ransomware developers are able to sell or lease their software to less tech-savvy cyber criminals. And in exchange, they often receive a commission or a portion of the ransom that's paid.
Yeah, and from another aspect, we see a stark divide between the cyber resilient organizations and those are struggling has emerged. So this clear divergence in the cyber competence is heightened by first, the shape of the threat environment, like the expanded attack surface we just mentioned, and the second is the macroeconomic patterns that might have the impact on the ransomware attacks, and the third one is the industry regulations, and the fourth one is the shifting technology. So we see there's growing cyber inequity between the organizations that has cyber resilient ability and those are not.
What can companies do to build resilience and mitigate cyber events, especially with emerging risks like ransomware and AI-enhanced attacks?
Human error is a top factor in successful cyber attacks and data breaches. With the increasing number of devices, the systems are becoming more complex, the attacks are even more convincing. Threat actors can use large language models to draft phishing emails and really use target localized language in that process. Companies really need to build a culture around cybersecurity from their individual employees to their C-suite and their board members. And they can do this through employee awareness, phishing simulation exercises, tabletop exercises where stakeholders are able to come together and understand their roles and responsibilities in the time of a cyber incident.
Yeah, and these days, cyber threats are not a matter of if, but when. So it is crucial to safeguard your digital assets all the time. Some businesses might have the confidence that they're well prepared because having a secure perimeter, but cyber resilience is not only about the first line of defense. It is more about how well business can absorb the risk and effectively manage the escalating threats. In the latest NIST Cyber Framework 2.0, the significant update is there's an additional function added, that is governance. So governance empowers the organizations to build a sturdy cyber foundation. In the Splunk CISO report, 27% of the survey CISO will use the Gen AI in their SOC jobs to providing the data enrichment in alerts and incidents.
What should customers expect when applying for cyber insurance?
So it starts with risk assessment, and customers will need to complete a questionnaire on topics such as their business operations, their IT dependencies, data exposure, and information security practices. The customer's industry and size might also influence the type and the number of questions that are asked. Larger, more complex, geographically diverse companies will most likely have to answer more questions than, say, a domestic SME. Furthermore, if companies store a large amount of sensitive information like PII, personally identifiable information, or protected health information, they will have to answer more questions, and most likely on the topics of data storage and encryption. Insurance works in tandem with cyber resilience, and insurance shouldn't be the first and only action that a company takes to combat the cyber risk. So as part of the insurance process, after reviewing that completed questionnaire, we'll often go back to the customer with suggestions on how they can improve their cybersecurity posture. We're focused on improving the cyber resilience of our customer base. And loss prevention, employee awareness, business continuity planning are really the best protection against cyber risk.
Yeah, and also Zurich, as a risk-oriented company, everything we do is based on the risk scenarios, and we back up them with our claim history. Our Zurich Resilience Solutions team, that our S team, is now working on the cyber risk quantification. In the most recent global risks reports, a majority of leaders from Asia reported that the financial loss is their greatest concerns from cyber attacks. By sending clear messages in numbers, the risk quantification could be a strong approach supporting the leadership in their proactive risk management and strategic decision making.
Thank you for sharing your insights on cyber risk landscape with us at InsuranceAsia News. It was a pleasure speaking to both of you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.